talking about as we speak, Israel, Palestine. All right. And there is ongoing Ukraine, Russia. Suddenly it has disappeared from the news. Ongoing Manipur. Suddenly it has disappeared from the news. What are we talking about? You know. So it's a question of. The second thing I will tell you is I've had great gurus, but those gurus don't have to be your school teachers or college teachers. You can learn from anybody. I'll give an example which is pertinent to what is happening today. My daughter, granddaughter, Ishwari, she was 4 or 5 years old. She was learning alphabets. And I remember in the morning I would be sipping tea and reading newspaper, and she would be pulling around. So I called her, I said, sit down. She was sitting on this side. I said, I'll test your alphabets. So she said, done. I took a piece of paper. I wrote D. She said D. I wrote several letters. She said, whatever, exactly. And then I wrote Z. And you know what she said? N. I said, no, beta, it is Z. She said, no, Abba, it is N. I was right.
And she was
Z. But if you turn it around, from this side,
right.
She was right. She was looking at it in
Different way.
what it means is that it depends upon the way you look at it. Supposedly you can be both right. And therefore, in fact, every lesson that I learned, I used in my practical life. So what happened? This great company, Microsoft, and an Indian company had a dispute. And it went into a very complex, very difficult matter. The CEO was jailed and all that, etc. And then they decided that they will have mediation. And they picked up 3 people, Naranmurthy, Anuaga and myself. And finally it landed up in my lap. And I still remember on the day this was going to take place, there was a big team from Microsoft that came, 6 people, including lawyer and all that. The Indian company on this side.
This was the Indian company.
I will not disclose that. So, and they sat there, and actually I began by telling them the story of ZNN.
Okay.
And I said, maybe you should look at it from their angle, the Indian company, Microsoft. It's a big global enterprise, multinational enterprise. They have their own culture, rules, things that they can do and cannot do, etc. And I said also look at it from this Indian company's perspective, basically. So as long as you look at it by putting yourself in their position, you will because that will explain to you why one did what one did at the time. You know, after 3 or 4 hours, I got a call and I left. By the way.
You left?
Yeah, I did not go on. So I said, go on. You know, I'm a great believer in after 3 or 4 hours, they said yes, we are settled. And whenever the things were breaking down, we said, what did Dr. Mashelkar say? ZNN. And then I was on the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board, so I used to go to Redmond every year. And I found that story had reached there, and they used to call it Z.
Z.
Yeah. Why I'm mentioning these are 2 very simple examples: convex lens and looking at Z as N or Z, depending upon where you look at. Aren't there simple lessons for humanity? That's how I learned in my life. So my gurus are these books, people, you, Krishna, all of them. Yeah. That's
How
an
did you
interesting
get from here to there? I mean, what would happen?
No, that was an interesting journey. Actually,
Do you have any major pitfalls when you have problems?
Yeah, I'll explain to you. See, what happened was that after my SSC, I went to Jain College and did my inter-science from there. I stood second in Mumbai, actually. And then I took admission in what is called as UDCT, University Department of Chemical Technology. Now it is called as ICT because it's a deemed university. As And in 1962, when I joined them, little did I feel that I would become the chancellor of that. I'm the present chancellor of university. It's one of our greatest institutions. And from there, then I went to England. I did my postdoctoral research.
How did you get money for all this?
No, there was no money. I was living on scholarships. So I had to stand first to be able to study. For example, I got 60 rupees per month for 6 years from Tata's. For standing first in university, I would get 30 rupees per month.
Okay.
So that is 90 rupees.
Okay.
90 rupees at that time is around 30,000 rupees now, by the way, if you just see the value of money. So I ran my family on my scholarships.
Wow.
And then when I did my PhD, there was a research fellowship of 400 rupees because that was 66 to 69. So I ran my household on the basis of that, actually.
So your mom didn't have to work anymore after that?
No, obviously, I was not allowed. But there is an interesting story about my mom. She has been my inspiration. In fact, on my life, there are lessons in 8th standard, 9th standard, 10th standard, and 12th standard. One of them is in Hindi, another one in Sanskrit, one in Marathi, and one in English.
Okay.
And the 10th standard one is about somewhere I had spoken about my gurus, my mother being one of them. So it is that particular. So, although she was illiterate, there was infinite wisdom in her and sort of kind of qualities which I rarely see. First was, of course, she was very tough with me. Like, for example, I would get 100 out of 100 in maths, generally. Occasionally, I'll get 97. It didn't matter, you know. I was looking at the 97. She would make me sit. She would make me sit there and ask me, where did those 3 marks go? So I was looking at 97 and she was looking at. So she said this benchmark. Then there was a turning point in my life. Maybe I would not have gone for PhD, but for her. So what happened was, every day she was in search of a job. Some teaching, something or the other. So, Prarthana Samaj, there's this Congress house. So she had gone in search of a job there. She stood in the queue. And when her turn came, they say, are you 3rd standard pass? Minimum qualification for the 3rd standard. And she could have lied because there was no certificate for 3rd standard. She said, no, I've never gone to school in my life. She was honest. And then she did not get the job. And while returning, she said to herself, why have I been insulted? Because I didn't go to school, I didn't have education. So what I'm going to make sure is that my son studies the highest and gets the greatest degree. What it is, I have no idea. Then when I did my BKM, the bachelor's degree, I was going to, in fact, I got a job offer also. She said, no, I found out there is a PhD. So I did PhD. Then after that is done, I told her, it's all over now. She said, no, I found out there is postdoctoral research.
What do you say? She found
That is how, yeah, that is how. So what happened was that just now we were talking about honorary doctorates. I remember I had received my 25th honorary doctorate, 2006. And at that time I went and told her I have got my 25th honorary doctorate. She said, now I am satisfied.
Finally.
Yeah. And of course, after 3 months or so, she passed away. So I think standard setting was done by her. She had, like my teacher, who told me about focus, she had this.
Just see a lady who was not literate herself, not been to school, but had infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
Produced probably the most learned person in the country today.
Absolutely. So one day we were sitting on the terrace of director's bungalow when I was director of AcSIR, and suddenly a bird came and fell on the terrace. And I was there, my wife Vaishali was there, my wife was there, my mother was there, and my son Ame was a young boy. And that bird had broken its wings. And I remember she ran down, actually had some turmeric made into a paste and applied to that bird. And then Ame was feeding that bird with water and salt. And the bird died after some time, a couple of hours or so. And then we had fallen in love with the bird and we buried him, a tearful farewell. And then at lunch, at dinner, I asked her, see, turmeric paste for wound healing, that's fine for human being. How do you think that it will work out? She said, all living beings are the same for me. It could be a plant, it could be an animal, it could be fish, it could be man, or so on. So profound. So, literacy, education has nothing to do with wisdom.
It's so
People
true.
see that. But it had a great impact on, just like that war moment had a great impact on my life. Similarly here. So when I was in Delhi, I was reading Times of India, the newspaper, and suddenly I saw the wound healing properties of turmeric were patented by US patent. Come on, my mother knew this knew it. How can you sort of patent it? So I think from here, not from here. So in the morning I saw that, and in the evening I was giving this Hussain Zahir Memorial Oration, and P.N. Huxer was chairing it, P.N. Huxer. And I announced that this is wrong and I'm going to fight. Now, that was wrong. What I did was wrong for a simple reason. That as Director General of CSIR, I had all the freedom in the world. But as Secretary to Government of India, I had no freedom. Unless I take Minister's permission, and this was a big announcement, fighting with us. But I did that, and that had dramatic effects because later on I became the chairman of board intellectual property organizations standing committee on information technology for 2.5 years, and there were 176 nations actually. And I remember the challenge with WIPO was that they do not look at traditional knowledge as knowledge. So, for example, in patent system, there's classification on different domains of knowledge. Traditional knowledge did not exist. They did not consider them. So when this turmeric patent battle was won by us, I took advantage of it. And I said, knowledge generated in Princeton, Caltech, Harvard is knowledge. And knowledge generated by my ancestors, by working in laboratories of life, is no knowledge. That's not acceptable. And I forced relook at their classification system. And there was a 5 US, Europe, Japan, India and China, a committee. And then traditional knowledge got its rightful place, where there was one subgroup, there were 250 plus subgroups that were created.
Wow.
And that had a big effect because later on, I went to US Patent Office and I showed to them turmeric patent is not the only wrong patent. There are hundreds of them and here are 10. And I showed to them, this is your patent. This is what you consider as a new breakthrough and new knowledge. And here is my Sanskrit shloka, its English translation. And whatever you say is new, it has been already. So after going through that, they took me around. They were fair, basically. And showed to me, they said when turmeric patent was applied for, we went to the computer, put turmeric, wound healing powder, saw what comes on the screen. Nothing came on the screen. Because your knowledge was either here or in your own books.
Correct.
Neither did we know what is here, nor did we know what is there. That is where I got the idea of traditional knowledge, digital library.
Beautiful.
And more than 3 crore pages have been digitized now.
3 crore pages.
Traditional, yes.
3 crore.
And now, not only that, but it has been converted into the classification system.
So they can find
So that they can, so there is an immediate translation.
Really?
So what it means now is that it has been mandatory for all the patent offices
check that as well.
to search. So no wrong patents anymore. So, but you can just see, let me come back there. Who should I thank? Maybe I should thank that bird. Maybe I should thank my mother. But more importantly, I would thank her for the conversation that we had. I would have just bypassed it. But you know, what she said was so profound.
You are in the position of power to do something about it as well.
Yeah. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that she made a big difference in my life.
Also, what I'm hearing is that everything matters. Nothing is trivial. We treat something as trivial, but everything can be profound if you put your...
Absolutely.
Beautiful.